Beijing escalated rare earth controls, and Washington hit back with 100% tariffs plus restrictions on key software, taking effect as soon as November 1st. Beijing quickly toned it down. Export controls are not a ban. But markets and supply chains are already rattled, and foreign capital is widening its wait-and-see stance. Meanwhile, red lights are flashing in real estate and business. Vanke's debt gap is widening, state capital blood transfusions are self-harming, and the Economist reveals a wave of disappearing executives. This isn't just a tariff tit-for-tat, it's a stress test of politics and the economy on the eve of the Fourth Plenum. Play with fire, pay the price. Don't miss the next drop, subscribe and enable the bell. Now Beijing has really stirred up big trouble. Right after the CCP announced restrictions on rare earth exports, Trump immediately opened fire, directly boosting tariffs on Chinese goods by another 100% on top of the original 57%. He also said, "What happens next, everyone knows." The global market got the message. This isn't just a trade war, it's a declaration of decoupling on the eve of a split. The laughable part is, the CCP then panicked. The Ministry of Commerce rushed to put out the fire. Export control is not a prohibition on exports. In other words, throw a punch, then claim you didn't. But foreign capital was already scared off, and supply chains are tightening across the board. At this exact juncture, China's business world ran into trouble again. Vanke's chairman Xing has been missing for 24 days. The Economist revealed that this year alone, 39 senior executives at listed companies have disappeared, averaging one entrepreneur vanishing per week. Coincidence? Rare earth blockades, tariff salvos, bosses vanishing, a business winter. On the eve of the CCP's Fourth Plenum, Beijing is beset inside and out. Power struggles are intensifying, and this rare earth war is not a diplomatic incident at all but an overture to an internal war of power and economics. Rare earth war begins, Trump strikes. The CCP Ministry of Commerce's response on October 12 was very subtle, saying export control is not a ban and stressing it came after adequate assessment. But everyone knows this is retroactive spin. The Wall Street Journal reported on the 12th that, in response to Beijing's escalation of rare earth controls, President Trump will impose an additional 100% tariff on China and implement new export controls on key software products. The new measures will take effect on November 1st. Trump said he found the CCP's rare earth extortion simply unbelievable, and that what happens next everyone knows. But shortly after, on October 12, Trump added on Truth Social, "Don't worry about China, everything will be fine." The highly respected president Xi is just in a bad mood. He doesn't want his country to fall into recession, and neither do I. This one hard one soft posture is actually forcing the CCP to back down. According to data from the Peterson Institute for International Economics, the current average U.S. tariff on Chinese goods is about 57%. Earlier this year, at the height of trade tensions, Trump's tariffs on China exceeded 140%, while China's tariffs on U.S. goods were about 33%. The CCP's escalation of the rare earth war created a tense and unpredictable atmosphere for the originally planned Trump-Xi meeting, which may be cancelled, a blow to Xi Jinping. Xi's predicament and the countdown to the 21st Party Congress. Xi Jinping has defined U.S.-China relations as a long-term struggle. The current goal is to maintain continued contact with Trump to manage the relationship. His strategy is to use time to gain advantage. However, the sudden upgrade of rare earth controls has made the CCP's delay tactics untenable. Once the U.S. raises tariffs on Chinese imports by 100%, U.S.-China trade will decouple. Craig Singleton, a senior China fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies in Washington, said, "The CCP government may have overplayed its hand, which could mark the end of the U.S.-China tariff truce." Wang Hao, who holds a Doctor of Philosophy in International Relations from the University of Oxford, believes the CCP Ministry of Commerce's line that export control is not a ban is not a policy reversal but a tactical step back. Wang analyzes that after Trump's strong response and violent market swings, the CCP realized the situation could spiral out of control, especially since once the U.S. actually implements a 100% tariff increase on China-made products, the blow to China's exports would be severe. Hence Beijing hurried to clarify, claiming export control is not a ban, trying to stabilize foreign capital and market confidence. Moreover, the CCP hopes to shift away from its wolf warrior persona and send a signal of rationality and control to avoid being labeled the provocateur in a trade conflict. Domestically, it seeks to soothe localities and enterprises, since sectors like rare earths, lithium batteries, and graphite are highly export dependent. If perceived as a full blockade, the entire supply chain would be hit. However, a long-term licensing regime shows the CCP still wants to control the rare earth lever, not fully open, but selectively permissive. This ambiguous controlled model lets the CCP both maintain bargaining chips and quickly de-escalate when necessary. Wang believes Xi Jinping is watching the U.S. response and market trends, trying to trade a softer tone for breathing room. If Trump issues further sanctions in the coming days, Beijing may step back further. This U.S.-China contest is still in a phase of dynamic probing. On X, the account Quantum Wang Wenhua, New Federal State of China, at Wang Wenhua 0518, posted on October 12 that in reality, once you get tough, the CCP shrivels again. But don't be fooled by the CCP's superficial submission, no engagement with Xi Jinping, don't give them time, that's the right course. Another user, Muzata, at 4ACC Free China, posted on October 11 that the CCP suddenly launched a rare earth embargo war on the US and the entire world because Xi Jinping wants to become a great leader on par with or surpassing Mao Zedong. So, from the moment he took power in 2012, Xi set 3 goals for himself. Fully take back Hong Kong and abolish one country, two systems. 2. Unify Taiwan. 3. Surpass the US in comprehensive national power, particularly GDP. She made Hong Kong fall without lifting a finger and could have, brimming with confidence, rapidly completed reunification. But man proposes, heaven disposes, the unimaginable COVID outbreak happened, and Xi's sealed off zero-COVID strategy flipped his dreams of global hegemony overnight, making the latter 2 goals unattainable and ever more distant. Xi's initial plan was complete unification by 2027 and secure the coronation as emperor for life by 2037, surpass US GDP and become the first to return China to number 1 globally since the Song dynasty. But the harsh reality since 2020 has been China's economy has plummeted. When there's no money, everything falls apart. Military corruption has turned countless advanced weapons into scrap. With Hong Kong gone, peaceful unification is a zero-probability event. The chance of a successful military unification is too small to accept and the cost too large to accept. In technology, energy, food, finance, and especially the consumer market, China can't escape the West's control. The total population is declining, the age structure is graying, and the latter exacerbates the former, leading to an interactive downgrading of income and consumption. The young generation lives by 4 no's and 1 want: no marriage, no children, no home buying, no consumption, just lying flat. International allies are either mired in war and economic ruin, or are being eliminated one by the US and its allies. Such domestic and external predicaments make 2027, the CCP's 21st National Congress, one of the most consequential moments in modern Chinese history. It's obviously impossible for Xi to achieve the 2027 and 2037 goals, so he needs more time, say, move the goals to 2037 and 2047. But the downward slide since the 2020 pandemic not only makes those goals unbelievable to others, it has also convinced mid to upper level insiders, princelings, the military, intellectual elites, and private sector elites to decide it's time to change leaders. The timeline is the 21st Party Congress in 2027. But 2027 is the moment of culmination. The starting and unfolding phase is now, the next 2 years, 2025 to 2026. These 2 years determine Xi's historical standing, his digital legacy, and his very life. This is the grand backdrop to the CCP launching a rare earth embargo war. And right now, the internal war being waged for the 21st Party Congress power reshuffle has arrived at its decisive stage, with anti-Xi forces currently holding the upper hand. To reverse the situation and crush his opponents, Xi must manufacture a major event to give himself an excuse of the nation must be stable, the party must unite. Xi hopes to use the party propaganda system he controls to steer this event, its significance, trajectory, and ultimate outcome, onto a track favorable to himself, eventually forcing 5 groups, mid and upper-level party cadres, princelings, the military, intellectual elites, and economic elites, to accept his stratagem, end the infighting, and weather the storm in unity. However, the rare earth war is unlikely to get Xi out of his predicament, unless China's economy escapes recession and sees fundamental improvement in 2026 and 2027. Otherwise, Xi will exit the stage of history at the 21st Party Congress amid continued economic decline. The rare earth war has enraged Trump and made China's economy, which has borne the brunt of tariffs, gasp. Now the key question is whether the two sides can reach another understanding before tariffs climb to levels that force decoupling. Housing market collapse, business world disappearances. Real estate is a major pillar of China's efforts to counter external pressure. Now this pillar is already tottering. According to the latest news, Vanke Group chairman Xin Jie has been missing for 24 days. On September 18, Xin Jie was taken away from a conference venue, shocking China's real estate industry. This January, Xin became Vanke's chairman, and the outside world viewed him as the firefighter dispatched by Shenzhen state-owned assets to Vanke. On October 12, outlets such as Real Estate Finance World and Sina Finance in mainland China reported Xin Jie's disappearance. So far, neither Shenzhen Metro, Shintiab Group, nor Vanke has responded. Vanke's official website still lists his position. However, observers noticed that the five-star St. Regis-style Xingting Yuan Hotel in Shenzhen, for which Xin was responsible for preparatory work, suddenly changed its sign last month to become Qingji Hotel. Public information shows Xin Jie's last appearance was at Vanke's shareholders' meeting on June 27, where he said the integration of Shin Metro and Vanke would achieve 1 + 1 greater than 2. On January 27 of this year, Xin officially took on a concurrent post as Vanke's chairman. At that time, Vanke had posted a historic loss. According to Vanke's announcement, net profit attributable to shareholders of the listed company in 2024 is expected to be a loss of about 45 billion yuan. Yu Liang resigned as chairman of Vanke's board, and Zhu Jiuxing resigned as president and CEO, among other roles. After taking over, Xin formed a new Vanke executive team, most of whom had been his subordinates at Tianjin Group and Shenzhen Metro Group. As Vanke's largest shareholder, the state-owned Shenzhen Metro Group has continued to transfuse blood into Vanke. Shenzhen Metro Group has repeatedly provided financial support to Vanke at below-market interest rates. As of August 5, 2025, the loans provided have reached 25.941 billion yuan. However, as China's real estate market plunges, Vanke's debt pressure remains enormous. By mid-year, Vanke's short-term borrowings were 23.146 billion yuan, and non-current liabilities due within 1 year were 134.713 billion yuan. But the company had only 74 billion yuan in cash, leaving a gap as high as 80 billion yuan. As of June 30, Vanke's total liabilities reached 872.988 billion yuan, the asset-liability ratio was 73.11%, and the net debt ratio was 90.38%. According to Wind data, over the next 12 months Vanke's debt repayment peak occurs in December 2025, when principal and interest totaling 5.871 billion yuan will come due. The state-owned Shenzhen Metro Group, which has been going all out to transfuse Vanke, is itself not flush with cash. Public financial reports show that in the first half of this year, Shenzhen Metro Group's revenue was only about 7.284 billion yuan, down 21.67% year-on-year, and due to Vanke's drag, net profit for the first half was a loss of about 3.361 billion yuan, marking 2 consecutive years of massive losses. On the balance sheet side, as of in June, Shenzhen Metro's total liabilities were 479.62 billion yuan and its asset-liability ratio rose to 60.46%. At the same time, Shenzhen Metro Group's 17 lines under construction and major projects like Shili Hub all require ongoing capital investment. At a time when real estate remains sluggish, manufacturing is mired in overcapacity and brutal internal competition, and private enterprises have become a lifeline for China's economy. Beijing recently even brought out Jack Ma to briefly perk up China's stock market to revive private sector confidence. Yet cracking down on private firms seems to be policy inertia for the CCP, and now the business world's Yu Minglong incident is drawing media attention. According to the British outlet The Economist, senior executives of Chinese-listed companies are disappearing at an astonishing rate. As of the end of September, there have been 39 such cases this year, roughly 1 entrepreneur seized per week. For example, on September 21, Chinese media reported that Yu Faxin, the actual controller and chairman of Zhejiang Jinlei Technology Company, Limited, was suddenly placed under Liuji by the authorities, with a net worth as high as 3.1 billion yuan. Liuji is an extrajudicial form of detention by the CCP. The detainee has no right to hire a lawyer. Originally used for corrupt officials, it is increasingly ensnaring Chinese businessmen. The Spanish NGO Safeguard Defenders notes that Liuji is similar to RSDL, residential surveillance at a designated location, solitary confinement at a secret site for up to 6 months. The Economist describes Liuji facilities as indistinguishable from jail cells, often without windows, with lights kept on constantly, and detainees monitored around the clock, even when using the toilet. According to official CCP data, in 2024 the total number of people placed under Liuji, including officials and businesspeople, surged nearly 50% to about 38,000. Consultancy Geopolitical Dragonomics estimates that the number of cases filed this year may reach a record 1 million. The Economist analyzes that with China's economic outlook bleak and many local governments heavily indebted to expand fiscal resources, they have launched distant water fishing operations, local governments conducting cross-jurisdictional seizures, detaining entrepreneurs, and seizing the assets of companies from other, wealthier regions, and restricting their personal freedom. This year has seen a series of suicides among China's corporate elite, disappearing into the CCP's brutal system. The Economist admits that the suicides reported in the media are only a few cases that have surfaced, behind them likely lie many more unknown stories. This is not a trade war, it's the countdown to self-collapse. The rare earth war enraged Trump and rattled Beijing. Trump's combo of hard and soft forced Beijing to take a position. Beijing's line that it's not a ban seeks survival externally and reassurance internally. But the real wound lies within China's economy: broken funding chains in real estate, state capital bleeding, entrepreneurs disappearing, foreign investment retreating, trust collapsing, and systemic risk spilling over. It looks like a collision of tariffs and rare earths, but in essence it is the regime's self-reckoning of its economic and governance capacity. On the eve of the CCP's Fourth Plenum, the civil war isn't on the streets, it's on cash flow statements and balance sheets, and on the body of every entrepreneur placed under Liuji. That is today's harshest reality.